What a weekend for Team Penske. Ryan Blaney snaps the winless streak, but everyone's talking about Chase Elliott's controversial move on Denny Hamlin. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, Monday evening Memorial Day edition. What a way to wrap up the greatest day, greatest weekend in this case, of racing. I can't speak to Monaco so much. I only caught the tail end. I know that track typically isn't F1's best show, but the Indy 500 yesterday, congrats to Joseph Newgarden, was as advertised, was well worth the price of admission as per usual, despite some of the controversial red flag decisions late in the race. And then tonight, yes, it was pushed a full 24 hours to Monday, but once again, the Coca-Cola 600 was 5 hours worth of edgy, sometimes controversial, aggressive racing with a deserving, feel-good winner. We'll discuss the top finishers, the controversies in just a few moments, but I do want to begin with Ryan Blaney. Let's start things off on the right foot here. A story that everyone can kind of smile about. You could see the emotion, you could hear the emotion in Ryan Blaney's voice during his post-race interview. One of the few, front stretch interviews that really hit different. You had the crowd chanting, "Blaney, Blaney, Blaney." For the second day in a row, a Team Penske driver celebrated by going up into the grandstands briefly to hang out with the fans, hand out the checkered flag. Great moment for Ryan Blaney, who is just a good dude. I know we've been sometimes hard on Ryan Blaney. Remember a few months ago, Kyle Petty said that Ryan Blaney is full of unfulfilled potential. And I think many others, kind of agreed with him. Blaney's very good, very solid. More times than not, he's very consistent. But he's been with Team Penske now since 2018, one of the elite organizations in the NASCAR Cup Series. And coming into tonight, he was riding a 59 race winless streak. I should specify points races. He did win the All-Star race last year. I have to put an asterisk there. For most Ryan Blaney fans, if I had to guess, this moment is very emotional, partially because you can all now breathe a huge sigh of relief. Ryan Blaney today not only proved that he can win races, he also proved that Ford can win races at intermediate tracks. Ford only had one Cup win this year coming into tonight, and it was Joey Logano at Atlanta, basically a super speedway. That's a pretty crazy stat. They have clearly lagged behind Chevy and Toyota at most types of tracks this year. Ryan Blaney proved tonight that he can get it done, that Penske can get it done, and that the Blue Ovals are still a force to be reckoned with. 8th career win. I am very happy for Ryan Blaney. I imagine it's been tough seeing your teammate Joey Logano go on to win 5 races and a championship since your last points win. Or even harder still, rookie Austin Cindric won a race last year, the Daytona 500, at your expense. I imagine it has been tough. That $1 million payday at Texas last year helped a bit, but winning a points race, winning a crown jewel, will help Ryan Blaney and his fans breathe a huge sigh of relief tonight. Congratulations to Ryan Blaney, and once again, congratulations to Roger Penske, the entire Penske team, winning the Indy 500 and the Coke 600 in the same weekend. That's pretty incredible. Also nabbed a stage win tonight. Can never have too many playoff points. Let's move on to some of the controversy. We'll start with the lesser, I think, of the two controversies, Bubba Wallace versus Aric Almirola. I'll keep this quick. We still don't know exactly why Aric Almirola was mad at Bubba Wallace. I did see a clip, I think Jared Haas posted on Twitter from the media center, where you could see Bubba kind of shutting the door, cutting Almirola off, it appeared, in the first half of this race. Didn't seem like much, didn't seem like anything egregious. Then Fox showed an angle of Aric Almirola kind of coming up and maybe slightly rubbing Bubba on the entry to turn 3, maybe voicing his displeasure about something. After the race tonight, Almirola apparently told PRN that he felt Bubba Wallace raced him dirty in the first half of this race, and then that Bubba Wallace flipped him the bird on track. That's why Aric Almirola confronted Bubba Wallace on pit road during the kind of midway red flag for rain, and Fox shared this clip that was posted to Twitter of Almirola shoving Bubba Wallace before, ironically, the same security guy, I think, that broke up the Noah Ross fight was there to kind of, soothe things over a bit. But it's rare. It is rare that you see Eric Almirola, of all people, getting remotely physical outside of the car. Almirola said that Bubba Wallace cursed at him on pit road. That's why he ultimately shoved him. But we don't know anything. We don't have audio from that moment. We don't really have any great replays of what happened on the racetrack. No clue what happened whatsoever, which is why there's not much to say. I guess what I can say about Bubba Wallace, I said something similar about Ty Gibbs last week. Like Ty Gibbs, Bubba Wallace has a history of being kind of hot-headed, of losing his cool. I gotta give him credit for de-escalating the situation. After he got shoved by Eric Almirola, he easily could have gotten back in his face. A full-on brawl could have broken out. Yeah, maybe not. I guess security was there. But the point is, Bubba Wallace de-escalated the situation exactly as he should. Because right now, Bubba Wallace is red hot. Coming into tonight, 2 straight top 5 finishes, 3 straight if you include the runner-up at the All-Star race last week. He and that 2311 team are clicking right now. They are firing on all cylinders earlier in the season than they ever have before. The last thing that team needs right now is some sort of on-track controversy or off-track altercation to distract them. I don't know what was said between the two, but once Almirola got to shoving, credit to Bubba, he de-escalated the situation and then went out there and earned himself another top 5 finish to make it 4 in a row. I gave Ty Gibbs some credit last week for keeping his cool, going out and getting the result. I'll give Bubba Wallace tonight for doing very much the same thing. 2 drivers with a history of being hot-headed, de-escalating the situation, and getting the job done for their race teams. That's signs of mature race car drivers. We need to see more of that from some of these young guys. It's going to serve them well and lead to better results more consistently. Now let's get to the real controversy, the one that I think will actually have some very severe consequences. Late in stage 2, while racing inside the top 10, Denny Hamlin, the defending Coke 600 winner, lost control of his car, slid up the track, and squeezed Chase Elliott into the turn 4 wall. Without much hesitation, Chase Elliott appeared to turn hard left into Hamlin, hooking the 11 car head on into the outside wall. Huge impact for Denny Hamlin. I'm not sure if I have the in-car clip, but you could see just how violent the impact was. This incident knocked both Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin out of the race, but that left everyone to discuss whether Chase Elliott intentionally hooked Denny Hamlin into the wall the same way Bubba Wallace intentionally hooked Kyle Larson into the wall at Las Vegas last year. Remember, Bubba Wallace was suspended a week as a result of that incident. Denny Hamlin got out of the car and said that Chase Elliott shouldn't race next week, suggesting he believes it's intentional. He said Chase Elliott threw a tantrum behind the wheel. Now, Chase Elliott said the politically correct thing. He got out of his car, and when asked if he intentionally retaliated against Hamlin, Elliott said no. Once you hit the wall on these things, it's broken. You can't drive them anymore. It was an accident. Denny Hamlin went a step further, tweeting, "Absolute left hook. Cranked the wheel 4 times harder left than he did making any corner through the whole day. BS move." And he tweeted a view of the SMT data that appears to show a pretty severe jerk of the steering wheel from Chase Elliott just before he made contact with the 11. NASCAR will have access to that very same data. They said that they are looking into the incident. There was also an overhead view Fox provided that showed Chase Elliott moving to the left before Brad Keselowski made contact with him. There were some questions about whether Keselowski turned Elliott into the 11. That overhead view appeared to disprove that theory. So I guess all of this is alleged. We'll see where NASCAR comes down, likely tomorrow, on this. But from all the data I've seen and the video replays we have available, I think it was on purpose. And I think Chase Elliott, the sport's most popular driver, should be suspended a week. Precedent says so. Just mentioned the Bubba Wallace deal with Larson. Very, very similar incidents. Chase Elliott should be parked a week. I know Chase Elliott didn't admit it was on purpose, but hey, neither did Bubba Wallace. He still got suspended. Hooking someone headfirst into the dogleg at one of these high-speed intermediate tracks is not something to be taken lightly. A crash that dangerous needs to be scrutinized. NASCAR made the right call when suspending Bubba Wallace last year, and I hope they make the right call here and suspend Chase Elliott. I'm a little surprised, honestly, to see Chase Elliott lose his cool. He had every right to be upset with Denny Hamlin. On the previous restart, Hamlin slid up and rubbed Chase Elliott then. And then, of course, the final incident, Hamlin slid up the track. Yeah, it's an accident, but still, Hamlin's mistake damaged Chase Elliott's car. Still early in a 600-mile race, Chase Elliott has every right to be upset, but that's not the way you exact your revenge. And I think even Chase Elliott would agree, but in that moment, he lost his cool. And that does surprise me a little bit. I guess I'm more surprised that he lost sight of the bigger picture. He entered this race today, I think 63 points below the playoff cut line. This race, the Coke 600, is worth more points than any other event because there's an extra stage. Chase Elliott will go home tonight with probably like 5 points. Meanwhile, fellow bubble driver Ty Gibbs earned double that in just the stages. So he lost out on points tonight making this mistake, and assuming he gets suspended, which I think he will, he's gonna lose out on points next week as well. And we're getting into crunch time. I still think Chase Elliott probably wins a race, but he has not had the same speed as Kyle Larson or William Byron, his teammate. So winning is not a given at this point. He can't afford to just throw points away. And he did tonight. I think he's just thrown away like next week's points as well. That's the part that surprises me. Now, I've seen some folks suggesting that, hey, NASCAR might yank his playoff waiver because if he gets suspended. And no, I don't think they will. A few years ago, Johnny Sauter in the Truck Series, if I remember correctly, got suspended for wrecking someone under caution, but yet NASCAR still handed him a playoff waiver. So I don't think this will affect his playoff eligibility. It just hurts him in the points. If NASCAR does choose to suspend him, they might not. They might say, yeah, Elliott turned left, but he also kind of got hit by Keselowski almost at the same time. That made it look worse than it was. I don't know what excuse NASCAR could come up with. I think if they want to be consistent, you have to suspend him. I don't know if they'll draw the same conclusion, but I think they will. What I do know is that Josh Berry likely will get yet another Cup Series opportunity. Although I don't know, this last week there was reports that he's finalizing a deal with Stuart Haas with Ford, so maybe Hendrick will look for someone else to drive the 9 car next week should it come to that. I don't know. Either way, bad deal. It's not a great look to have one of your stars right-rearing another one of your stars, causing such a huge accident that could have injured Denny Hamlin. That was a huge hit. You don't want to see that. Yeah, Hamlin made a mistake on track. It cost Chase Elliott in the moment, but that's not how you respond. These cars, this series, this sport, racing, it's just too dangerous to behave like that. It's not great that one of our stars made that mistake. Anyway, let's get away from some of the controversy. Now I just want to look at some of the top finishers because there are some surprising names in the top 10, top 15. Ford, Chevy, and Toyota finish on the podium tonight. William Byron's pit crew deserves a huge shout out. 6 different times tonight, they entered pit road, not in the lead, but exited P1. I will say at least half the credit goes to getting the #1 pit box, which I kind of lucked into since qualifying was rained out. But the pit crew was great all night as well. I think nearly every single one of their 4-tire stops came in at under 10 seconds. So pit crew was extremely sharp. The added bonus of having the first pit box didn't hurt either, but William Byron's pit crew was dynamite tonight. Deserves a ton of credit. That's the only reason he was in contention for this win. I don't think he was the second best car. I think Byron was at best 4th or 5th, probably, but he comes home 2nd. Good for him. Martin Truex Jr. comes home 3rd. He was my pick to win tonight, so I don't have much else to say. I expected the Toyotas to be fast, and whether it was Hamlin for a while, Bell early on, Truex seemed to be the most consistent Toyota, often in and around the top 10 or top 5, comes home 3rd. Good for him. 2 more Toyotas right behind him. Bubba Wallace, I already talked about him. 3rd, 4th, if you count the All-Star race, 4th straight top 5 finish. This team has never been this good this early in the year. Typically 23-11, Booty Barker, that team, they get better as the year goes on. If this is how good they are in May, watch out, come late summer, come playoff time. 23 cars peaking, I think, at the right time this year. They're bound to make the playoffs at the rate they're going. And Tyler Reddick in that North Carolina blue Toyota, also very solid. I thought he had something for Ryan Blaney, but I maybe picked the wrong line on a couple of the restarts there. Got jammed up on the bottom, slid up in the middle, lost some track position, still gets a top 5 though. Solid night. Great recovery by Kyle Busch. At one point he was slow on the apron in reverse, just driving out of the backup cam. Comes back to get a great finish. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., have to give him a shout out. I don't know where he stacks up in points as of now, but before tonight he was 14th. 14th for the Daytona 500 winner. That may not sound amazing, but when you consider JTG Doherty hadn't finished better than like 22nd in points the last few years, with Stenhouse being 14th with yet another top 10 finish tonight, that's something to build on, something to be proud of. Although he did spin AJ Allmendinger out late for, I don't know, no reason at all. I mean, Allmendinger was a little slow. I get you gotta go, but I mean, he just dumped him. I mean, what was he doing? Austin Dillon's won a Coke 600 before. He gets a top 10. And Zane Smith making, I don't know what this is, his 3rd, 4th Cup Series appearance, gets a top 10 finish. What a performance from Zane Smith. I mean, he was never really in the top 10 until the very end. Some attrition helped out, but he's driving a front row car. I don't expect him to run inside the top 10. I expect him to, on a good day, maybe be in the top 20. And that's what he did. Young driver, huge potential, great future ahead of him. This is why Front Row is trying to get him some seat time. I mean, that and there's a sponsor attached, but Zane Smith is a future Cup Series driver, potentially a Cup Series star in the making, and we're getting glimpses of it here in races like this one. Harvick spun out at least once tonight. He comes home 11th. Alex Bowman, first race back since injuring his back, ran in the top 15, even the top 10 at one point tonight. Really solid night. Gets a 12th place finish. Not bad at all. I hope he's feeling all right after a 5-hour race, 600 miles. Goodness. I do want to give a shout out to JJ Yaley finishing 16th in a Rick Ware Racing car. That's pretty great. I also want to shout out RFK. You don't see him in the top 15, but finishing 19th actually was Brad Keselowski. His teammate Buescher got another top 10. But the 6 car and the 17 both looked really fast early on. Keselowski, though, just couldn't stay out of trouble, really. And honestly, the fact that he got top 20 is pretty impressive. But a lot of speed, once again, from RFK. Something to watch. What makes Ryan Blaney's win all the more impressive is that you don't see any of his Penske teammates on this list. Joey Logano at one point was in the top 5 thanks in part to some tire strategy, but for the most part, Logano was a 15th place car today. Austin Cindric, man, just cannot break out of this sophomore slump, got on the wall early. I think at one point he raced his way back up into like 11th or 12th, but that was his peak. So you had your 2 teammates with 15th place cars at best, whereas you went up there and dominated, won a stage, led a bunch of laps, won the race. I mean, that's got to make Ryan Blaney feel even better that he was able to far exceed what his teammates were capable of tonight. So congrats again to Ryan Blaney. Those are your top finishers. I don't think I really missed any huge highlights. Oh, that's right. Kyle Larson gets 30th. He was in the top 5 late once again until he got loose or tight or something and spun out in front of the whole field on a restart. Took Christopher Bell, Joey Logano, I think Ty Gibbs with him. Want to give Ty Gibbs some credit. He had top 10 speed all night as well. Toyotas were fast. Ty Gibbs made the most of it until just got caught up, wrong place, wrong time. I also have to mention Legacy Motor Club. At the end of stage 1, they just imploded. I mean, Jimmy Johnson had spun out once already, gotten into the wall already. First time driving one of these cars on an intermediate track, no practice. Not surprised that Jimmy Johnson struggled, but Eric Jones, who looked to have a top 10 car, broken radiator. Noah Gragson, during the same caution period, also went to the garage with radiator trouble. Apparently they both hit the same piece of debris. Terrible luck for Legacy Motor Club. All 3 of their cars in the garage first and at the same time. Just, can we flip the calendar to 2024 yet? I mean, this is a lost year for Legacy Motor Club, I'm afraid. And I guess I'll mention Trackhouse. Neither Chastain nor Suarez were relevant tonight, which is rare, especially for Ross Chastain. They both finished outside the top 20. I don't know what officially did their races in, but they were non-factors all night, which was a surprise. Anyway, I think we've hit on the biggest storylines. There's so much tonight. We set the record, I think, for 3rd most cautions at Charlotte ever. Tied for 3rd, I believe. Lots of incidents. I didn't even mention Tyler Reddick driving through the infield turf to save his car out of turn 4. That was so much to try and keep track of. Let's put this race on the groovy gauge. The Coke 600 is the one race a year I don't mind if it's 4.5, 5 hours long. Now this race was a little longer because they did have a short red flag for rain in the middle of stage 2. So in actual real time, this race was nearly 6 hours long if you include that red flag period. That's a long time. I mean, the racing was fantastic, so I can cut it some slack, but towards the end there, just restart wreck. It got a little sloppy. Let's just leave it at that. But I still love this race. I think the next gen car races Charlotte better than it races probably any other track on the schedule right now. Auto Club, may it rest in peace, was pretty good. Nashville last year was great, but Charlotte Motor Speedway just seems to have that special something that leads to great racing. Multi-groove racing. We didn't have many long runs tonight. There was one cycle of green flag pit stops kind of early, but the restarts were interesting thanks in part to no practice or qualifying. Lots of comers and goers early as guys missed or hit on the setup. Yes, if you include the rain delay, it was nearly 6 hours long, but it was engaging. I'm going to give this race a 93% on the groovy gauge. I love multi-groove racing where you can choose to drive it in really deep, try to ride the bottom, or you can ride the wall on the outside and carry that momentum off. I love that, and we saw that all night today. 93% for me. Pretty good looking crowd for a Monday as well, considering all the rain. I mean, there was really no on-track activity since Friday, since the truck race, right? I don't think Xfinity made it on track Saturday. So after 48 hours plus of no on-track activity, it was pretty great to see so many fans stick it out and watch today's Coke 600. And I know as I'm recording this, the Xfinity race is going on. I'm gonna have it on in the background while I'm editing. I hope a decent amount of fans stuck it out for that one as well, but again, it's a long day, my goodness. But that's gonna do it. I think I covered everything I wanted to. This was a long one. I appreciate y'all sticking with me. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. If you're new to the channel and you love NASCAR, you're in the right place. Be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And thank you to my Patreon supporters, as always, for your very generous support. Race got pushed to a Monday, which means, much like the Xfinity Series teams, I've got a very busy week ahead. Lots of videos to pack into a short amount of time, but I will see you again very, very soon. Thanks for watching, y'all. Take it easy.